Hello and welcome to the new Power BI tutorial video, and in this video I am showing you the data analytics case study which is related to the telecom domain. So in this telecom domain we will look at the case study that is related to the customer churn. That means the customers who is leaving the telecom company, and it is one of the biggest problem for any company, whether telecom, banking or for any other company. If they are losing customers, it's a very big problem, because acquiring a new customer, the cost of acquiring a new customer is quite big. However, the cost of retaining the existing customer is quite less. So if the existing customer are losing a lot compared to acquiring a new customer, then it's a challenge or it's a cost for the company. So from that perspective, today we will look at this data set where we have the customer ID, gender, senior citizen, whether the customer is senior citizen or not, whether the customer has a partner or not. That means, sort of a male partner has a female partner, or any other partner for that matter, based on the customer information, whether they have the life partner or not. Dependents, no or yes. Tenure with the company, the telecom company, from 1 year, 34 years, 2 years, 45 years, for how many years. Or if I can see, probably it can be in months as well, if I am not wrong. No, I think, yeah, all of this looks like it is probably the number of years, right? Depends on what information that we have it available. And let me pause that. Sorry. And let me put a filter just to see the highest value over here, right? 72. So it looks like it is basically the number of years that we have. Phone service, yes or no, whether the customer has the phone service or not. Multiple lines, internet line, whether they have online security, online backup option available or not, device protection available or not, tech support, streaming of TV, right, via the lines today. Telecom provider basically give that option today. Streaming of movies, contract, 1 year, month to month, stuff like that. And I think 2 year, multiple options are available. 3 different options are available. Paperless bill, yes or no. The payment method, the monthly charge, what is the monthly charge, and finally whether the customer is churn or not. So this is a data analytics case study which will help us analyze the customer. And finally, if you want to use algorithm, you can actually predict based on the behavior that being tracked over here. We can basically predict whether the customer is going to churn or not. So if you want this data set, right, there is a link present in my description. The thing is, you need to join my group, the Google group, where I have kept the link of the data set, right, which is this one. This is my group, which will analytics tutorial. Around 6,600 members are already there. This is the link which is present over here, which you can access it after joining the group, right? And this is another sheet which I maintain, is also present in the description, which is basically helping you search any of my previous videos, which is 300 plus videos, and the link is present over here. That way you can very easily find any of the video that I have posted before. These are the 2 links which is present down in the description. Okay, coming back to this, right, what we will do is we will come over here. We have this blank workbook, and in this we will click on get data, and this is a CSV file. So I'll click on the text CSV, and it should be in my dataset folder. Yes, and I can click on telco customer churn. So as soon as I click the telco customer churn, Power BI will start analyzing and start connecting the data, and then it will show me that screen where either I can load or transform the data. So let's give it a minute, and we can then quickly check the data, right? Like this is screen, it has automatically identified that it is a comma separated one. Data type detection based on 200 rows. So numerical value right aligned, perfect. The text value left aligned, perfect, right? This is at the highest level what I check, that there should not be any numeric value which is left aligned. If it is a left aligned, it gives an indication it is a text. Like if you can see it over here, it is a text. So this is something, an experience you get over a period of time by simply looking at how the data is formatted. You get to know whether it is taken as a numeric column or the text column. Okay, so with that, we'll click on load, right? And as and when I'll click on load, it will take a couple of seconds to basically load the data inside the Power BI. So all in all, what we will look at the case study question, and here are the case study questions that I have for you, and this will basically serve as a way to how to start with any data, right? How to start looking at any data, solve some basic question and move more and more advanced. So I've given you 10 over here, which we will see it over here. Then in this shade, I have the 10 questions for you, which you can basically get it, as part of the homework. Okay, so we will look at that later. But the first is that what is the overall churn rate? So let's see how we can get this done within Power BI. Okay, so here is our sheet which we have where the data is loaded, right? All the columns are present. There are a couple of sections. This is the presentation layer or the report view. Here you have the table view. You can click over here. It will show the similar information that we have seen into the spreadsheet, right? If you will see, you can go on to the right hand side. It will show. You can hide this as well by simply clicking it on it over here. So if you see churn column is present, yes and no. So what we can do is, the first thing to view this information, what I can do is I can bring the table. Okay, I bring the column as churn. Okay, yes, no. And then again I can bring the column churn, and what I can basically say that, okay, you need to count this. All right, and this is the way I have a very simple table which basically telling me, and if you want me to increase the font over here, let me increase the column header to maybe 14, right? And above that we have values to 14, right? So what we have is the churn, yes or no. So total customer count, what we have is the 7043. From that, 1869 customers have been churned. 5174 customers are still with us. So this is a basic statistic. Now we have about our data set. That means the volume of the data that we are dealing with. Okay, but how we can get the churn ratio? Churn ratio will be nothing but 1869 divided by your overall customer that you have. So for that, first we need to create a formula to get the count of churn customer, and then we have the formula for the total customer count. So I'll show you step by step how you can do that. So first thing is we click on new measure. Okay, and this will be your churned customers. Okay, and this will be, we will use the calculate function which takes first expression, that will be your count of churn. Okay, the count of churn, yeah, comma, and then what we have is the, again we will use churn is equals to, in that we will say yes as a filter. So what it will do is it will only count those customers which are churned. That means the output should be 1869. Okay, so we will enter it. Now this churn customer is created. What I'll do is I'll click outside over here on this card, and I will simply click on churn customer to make sure this number should match with this number, right? So it is matching. That means our calculation is good. Perfect. I can now remove the data. So once we have this, then what I need is again one more measure, churn ratio, and that will be the dividing. So there is a specific function called divide. Please do not use the / as a divide. Always use this, which is optimized way of using it, and the output will be fast when you have a millions of rows, right? So what is the numerator? Our numerator is the new formula that we created, and denominator is nothing but your count of churn, right? And looks like it doesn't take this particular count. So what we can do is we can create one formula which is nothing but total customer. Oops, sorry, not the column. I don't know why Power BI keeps showing me all these different options, but click on new measure. All right. So we will say total customers, and that is nothing but your count, whatever column we want. That means the churn. Change churn. That should be it, right? So this is our total customer. Now I'll create a third formula, churn ratio, and that is your divide churn customers, comma, total customers. Oops, sorry. Churn customer, yep, should be fine. And then we have the total customer. Okay. And is there any column name? Yep, perfect. All right. Okay. So then what we can do is we can bring it this one, and we bring the churn ratio over here, 0.27. Okay. I'll click on this and look at it from a percentage perspective. So 26.54% is what I'm getting when 1869 is being divided from 7043, right? So this is our metric. The first answer what we have from this is, what is our overall churn rate, right? This is what we have answered, and our answer is 26.54%. All right. How does churn vary by contract type? Okay, now they are asking us to look at the contract type. So let's go over here and let's look at the column which is contract type. Okay. So here is this column which is contract, right? So it has three values: month to month, 1 year contract, or 2 year contract, right? So other than that, I think we don't have anything which column which is by contract. Perfect. So contract column. So now what we will do is we will bring one donut chart to easily visualize this information. For legend, we will have the contract, right? And for the values, I will have the churn ratio. Okay. So now we have the answer for our second question, which is basically asking us the churn, right? And if I expand, that means the customers who are our monthly customer or who are paying us month to month are getting churned more, but those who are our 1 year or 2 year customer, then those are being basically not churning that much. Just 2 year is very less, 1 year is this. So technically in this case, what company will usually do is they will basically set a target that from 75.81%, how many customers we can bring it into 1 year. And then from 1 year, how many customers we can bring it into the 2 year. These are the then kind of targets that are being set to the sales leadership or to the marketing teams and the roles like those, so that they reduce the churn by moving the customer as quickly as possible from month to month to these customers. And that's how strategy or strategic discussion that happens once you have data in front of you. Okay, so we have answered the second question. Now let's look at the third question. What is the average tenure of churned versus non-churned customer? Okay, so average tenure of churned versus not churned customer. Okay, so over here we have the churn ratio, right? And we have the churn customer and total churn. So over here, if you will see, 1869 is the churn and this is the non-churn customer. That means the active. What they are asking us, average tenure. All right. So this metric is something which will come in, and then we will bring one more column to it, which is the tenure column over here. If I bring it over here, right, come on. Right, come on, yes, not the sum. I will bring this up over here and I'll click on average. Okay, so this basically gives us the idea that customer who are getting churned, which is yes, is generally around, on an average, they have 18 years of age or 18 years of relationship with us, right? And the customers who are not getting churned, on an average, they have the relationship of 37 years, right? Now, in your case, if it is years or if it is months, it's up to them in terms of how the data is structured. I am considering it as years. So those who have the average year of 17 or less than that, probably they will churn more. And those who are, reached to the average age of 37, that means they will not churn more, right? So that's what the output we are getting it from the data analysis. So now we have the answer of third question. Move on to the next question. What is the churn rate by payment method? Okay, so let's bring this time maybe a bar chart, or what we call it, clustered column chart over here. And if I increase that and look at the payment method. Okay, so we have the payment method over here, which I can bring it on the x-axis, and we have then the churn ratio that I can bring on the y-axis, right? And for easily viewing it, the exact labels, we will enable the data label. So clearly, those who are giving us electronic check is 45.29%, what we have it, followed by mail checked. If you are not able to see it, maybe I can increase the x-axis value from here. Yeah, right. So those electronic check, mail check, followed by bank transfer, 16.71, 15.24 in case of a credit card. So clearly it is giving us an indication that we basically have to work, or the company has to work to shift customer from electronic check to this one, right? So they will probably then run a campaign to lure those customers that if you are going towards credit card or bank transfer automatic, then you will basically going to get some more offers, or maybe some subscriptions, or maybe some discount and stuff like that. Generally, you may have received such emails or such communications that, hey, this is what you are doing, but if you are scheduling it for an automatic deduction, then you will going to get this free offer, whatever that free offer is, right? So this is what happens when the analysis like this happens, and it gives an indication, okay, this is what we want, because this is how the churn rate is declining, right? Because by any way we have to reduce the churn rate. Now I'll create a page 2 because page 1 is almost filled. The next question what we have is does monthly charges influence churn? Yes, in a way. If we look at over here, I think monthly charges is a column over here, and if I go to the earlier, if we have looked at month-to-month plan is basically impacting a lot, but monthly charges is this much, right? And these are the it is basically starting from 18.25 to going all the way till monthly charges is 85. So in this case, what needs to happen is that we need to create buckets to analyze this data. So going to the report view, what I will do is, we have the monthly charges. Here are the 3 dots, more options, right? I'll click on that and I'll click on the new group. Okay, so it will create bins, monthly charge bins, and size of the bins or number of the bins. So what I will say that, okay, I need 10 bins, which is generally a pretty standard good count in terms of analyzing it, but it can change based on your needs, right? So I'll click OK, and we can experiment with that, so that once we will plot that information over here on the cluster chart, it will going to give us the relevant output. So we have the x-axis, and then we can bring the churn ratio over here, right? So we can see that we have this thing, and if I go to show all the values, I go over here, x-axis rather than continuous, I say categorical. Okay, categorical, and I will sort the axis in the ascending order. Okay, or maybe what I need to do is sort the axis monthly charges. This is how I want. Yes, 18.5 to 28. So, you know, difference of 10, then 10, then 10, and so on and so forth. So what it is indicating over here is we have the charges, which is 18.5 till 28, right? 28 to 38, 38 to 48. Generally, that's how we will read this. I know it can be a little bit misleading, and if I can increase the size, right? So it can be a little bit misleading, but what it indicates is because our value is absolutely starting with the 18.25, and we have set the bin size of 10, then what it is, or the count of 10, then what it is indicating is 18.28 from 28 to 38, 38 to 48, so on and so forth, right? And it is telling us, okay, so for this monthly charge, our churn ratio is pretty less, 9.22, right? But our churn ratio increases a lot over here, but it starts reducing at 58. So that means definitely there are some type of a customer, maybe these are individual customers, for them, you know, this charge is good. Maybe these customers are either your some mid-size or some local companies, or maybe a customer whose revenues are pretty less, maybe some commercial customer whose usage is high, but you know, they are okay to pay this one, and that is why their churn is less. And maybe 108 is probably those customers who are sort of enterprise customer, who are okay to pay and they don't churn a lot, but then in this category it churns. So we can clearly see that with this analysis that yes, the monthly rates impact a lot, right? And the company has to do some work to move these customers or to work with these customers by further analyzing it so that they can put them in the right category. So the churn will come down, right? So for example, 68, 78, 88, 98, are these customers really inclined toward paying this much? Because sometimes what happens is customer don't give a lot of focus on their usage. So it's a customer education also, by telling them, well, okay, maybe your usage is not that high. So hey, what you are using it 78 over here, maybe you should shift to 58 and you will still continue to be able to do the work that you are doing, right? So these type of analysis can be done once you start analyzing the data as per this need, right? So we have given now the answer and some explanation around it. What is the next question is, what is the churn rate among customer with tech support? Okay, let's see that. For that, I'll come over here and then let's look at this time maybe I will use a funnel chart for a sake of interest, right? So we have tech support. I think it will be only yes and no. So maybe it will not be a good chart probably for this. Okay, so yes, no, and no internet service. Yeah, so this is also another chart which gives a good indication that the customer who are not using you know, the tech support is 41.6. Those who are using it, it's less, and those who don't have the internet service, it's pretty less. I think rather than this chart, probably I will use this chart, which is a cluster bar chart like this, which is much more useful. And I will enable the data labels like this. So 41.64 for those people who are not using tech support. That means probably they are having a problem, right? But they are not using the tech support, and that's why they are getting churned, by getting frustrated that why this service is not working or that service is not working. So that is something which we can analyze from this data, and company will have to do the work to further analyze this particular piece, because with this we got a high level understanding of that something is really wrong over here for those people or customer who are not using the tech support. But you know, what needs to be done over here is part of the strategy, right? So that is something needs to be done over here. But we have got the answer that yes, churn rate is influenced by or high for those customers who are not using tech support. Now I'll create one more page and go to this file and see the next question. How does internet service type affect churn? How does internet service type affect churn? Okay, let's see that. We have the churn and we have the, so internet service type is internet service type. Okay, right. Yeah, internet service. Got it. So how many internet service type? Okay, maybe for this one, again, probably I will use this chart and internet service type and the churn ratio. All right. So these are the three different internet service type, and probably for that, the better use is the donut chart to clearly see this. As you can see, we can clearly see that those who are with the fiber optic is basically having a more churn. Probably they don't like the service, it's getting frequently disconnected, who knows, right? So idea is that you move these customers to maybe the DSL if possible, right? Or maybe improve the service, because even in the DSL situation, the churn rate is high compared to those the people who don't have any service type, like they are not using internet, they are fine, right? So looks like some issues with the services that is being provided via the fiber optic and DSL. That means definitely service needs to be improved to reduce the churn, and some more analysis is needed. But it gives a clear indication that the people who use these service in internet service are having a lot of churn over here. Okay, and now let's move on to the next question, which is the churn rate is high among senior citizen? That should be fairly easy. So for that, I will use this new card, which is this one new card, right? And over here, we will say that senior citizen, which should be over here. Why senior citizen is a measure? Let me see. All right, senior citizen 1 or 0. Okay, yes or no. One is yes and another is no. Okay, that's fine. Categories is this 1 and 0. 1 indicate that it is the customer is a senior citizen. 0 indicates customer is not a senior citizen. Okay, and then we look at the churn ratio. So clearly those who are a senior citizen are having the higher churn, right? So this gives us a good high idea, but you need to dig deeper, more in terms of how you can improve this situation, right? Probably they don't like the service. They are facing difficulty in accessing it. Maybe they are not going towards the tech support. Since they are senior citizen, they need pretty much things to be work as much streamlined as possible, so that the churn ratio will be reduced. So these are some of the psychological and some of the factors based on looking at the demography of your customer, like what kind of a customer you are serving, and based on that what service that they are expecting, so you can reduce the churn in this case. But we have the idea now that customer who is the senior citizen is having more churn. Does having dependents reduce churn? Well, let's see that. So dependents are over here. So in this case, what I will do is I will simply bring this table dependents, right? Yes or no, simple, right? And then we bring this, either this or this, right? If you want, I can change this to this one, simple. Dependents, yes, less churn ratio. Those who don't have a dependent is basically having a higher churn ratio. Now it will be pretty interesting that why this is the case, but that's what the data is telling us, right? So it's a matter of investigation on its own why this is happening. Okay, but we have got the idea and the answer that yes, does having dependence reduce churns? Well, yes, having dependence reduce churn. Now what is the churn rate by gender? Well, male and female. So let's go ahead and look at it via this only. So we have gender categories. We have male and female as a gender category from this data, and then we have this data. So this gives us a good idea that it doesn't really impact whether a customer is a male or female. Your churn ratio is absolutely same, right? So this metric becomes then irrelevant for the company in this scenario, because in any case, you know, it is sort of the same. So like I said, you know, this will be an interesting case study. We looked at a lot of different numbers, a lot of different charts to basically create output, right? And then I have some homework question for you after you learn this by seeing that how I'm doing. So similar type of a question that what is the churn rate by online security? And based on how I was telling, like further research is needed, some interpretation of the data, please do that interpretation and write about it. But what is the churn by online security, churn rate by streaming TV usage, churn rate by device protection? What is the average total charges for churn versus non-churn customer? Again, a little bit interesting question. What is the churn rate by paperless billing, by phone service, multiple lines, online backup? Again, this is some specific values which is coming here. By streaming movie usage, by partner status, all of these things will lead you in the direction of creating more and more KPIs, more and more charts with which you can become a data analytics expert, right? And finally, last but not the least is, once you have created this analysis, think about how you can arrange this analysis in the form of a report or a dashboard so that it will become easily presentable. I have given many such dashboards to you in the past. So have a look at it, you know, think about how you can, you know, categorize all of that information, give a proper title, give a proper dashboard title, arrange these visuals in a way with proper coloring, background color and stuff like that, and get the, you know, good insight out to your customer, and, you know, so that they can utilize. So I hope you will enjoy the homework, you will enjoy this piece, and let me know what more type of case studies you want me to create, and I will help you in that direction and create more case studies. With that, thank you so much. I'll meet you in the new video with a new topic.